to another episode here with Rosie, your realtor. And today we have Brandi with Lenders United. Hi, Brandi.
Hi,
How are you today?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. Excited to get these going again because I've been slacking for a little bit. But, uh,
Well, that seems to be a trend with all of us. So,
yeah, right. But time to get back to work. So welcome. And then we're gonna try something different. So normally, I change the speaker every week, but we're gonna go on a little series. And we're gonna have you. We'll get into this actually a little later, but we'll have you talk specifically about the different loan types. Right.
this sounds fabulous. We have a lot. So,
Awesome. All right. Well, why don't we start by tell me a little bit about yourself?
so, I have been with Blenders United for about 5 years. I've been in the industry for about 15. Uh, Came in as marketing, and then it just went from there. And it's it's definitely something creative. So you learn something new every day. It is just it's definitely got to be a passion. So I have a passion for helping people. So that's I know why we're still here after all these years.
Yeah, I like how you said creative because yeah, you absolutely, I think to be good in real estate, whether lending or the realtor part, you absolutely have to have that creativity and be able to think outside the box because not everybody fits into that perfectly, square box. So awesome. Well, tell me a little bit about your company.
So Lenders United, we are a lender and we are a broker. I'm personally licensed in 13 states, so we have access to all 50. So we have resources for anywhere you can potentially go, and we have options to help no matter where you are.
Awesome, awesome. And I'm sure if we go online, we can get a list of those states.
Absolutely.
Okay. And remind me, obviously, I know you through here in Tennessee, but are you licensed in California as well?
I am. So it's Alabama, Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, Missouri, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia.
All right. Alabama would have been
So,
last month. All right, very cool. Awesome. Oh, I should have okay, side thought. But all right, well, awesome, awesome. Why don't we go ahead and get in? So today you're gonna talk specifically about VA loan because I know there is so many different types of loan types. And I would say that based on people's areas, you'll tend to see a higher volume in certain ones. And so, like coming from California, I primarily dealt with conventional, and then cash was probably my second type of financing. And only ever saw but a handful of VA, let alone FHA, and never have I done a USDA. Where here it's about, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard as much as 70% loans here are VA, and then FHA, and then conventional cash. So definitely for me, that's a big change, a big change.
so because we're around Fort Campbell and we have the military base, there are a lot of VA loans here, and a huge percentage of them are going to be VA loans. I mean, there are other programs that work out better for different people, but primarily you're in a VA town. So,
Yeah. So tell me some of the specifics about getting a VA loan. Like, can I get a VA loan?
oh, well, have you served in the military?
I have not.
Then you cannot get a VA loan. So
I was
the
waiting for you to
VA
just say,
loan
nope,
is
not you.
no, you always have to ask though. There's people that have been in the reserve. There's people that are surviving spouses. There's people that have been dishonorably discharged who think they can never get a VA loan. But honestly, there are options to overturn dishonorable discharges that you could be eligible for VA benefits if you've been in the reserve for a certain amount of time and you've had periods of active and consecutive days in the military, you can get VA loans. If you have ever put on a uniform, you know, I would suggest that you contact a lender, preferably me, um, to see if you have entitlement. Because it may be something, if you have a DD 214, that is issued because you were in the military. If you are active duty, a veteran, a surviving spouse, you've been in the reserve, it's always best to check. Because if you don't check, you never know. And some people have no idea they have eligibility. Um, so if you have put on a uniform at any point, then I would suggest checking because you may have those options available to you. And they're great products. So they're backed by the Department of Veterans Affairs. They have no PMI, which is monthly mortgage insurance, as some of the other programs do have that. It's 100% financing. Um, it's it's definitely a more lenient program. So if you have ever put on a uniform, always check, because if that's a resource that you have available to you, it is 100% beneficial for you. So VA loans also can have funding fees, but if you have, any form of disability, 10%, it's usually 10% or more. But if you have a service-connected disability, you can still have, an exemption from the funding fee. It's always best to check. There's resources where you can pull your own certificate of eligibility. There's also ways that we can pull your certificate of eligibility. Sometimes it's easy for you, sometimes it's not easy for you. Why not have somebody do it for you? So, let's see. So VA does not have a credit score requirement. Most programs want a 580 or above. There are ways to get financing below that credit score requirement. They would be what you call manual underwrite. If you have, any type of credit challenges or something like that, it could be something that's easily fixed. So that way you could do, a standard VA loan instead of a manual underwrite. The programs also offer higher debt to income ratios than most. For instance, like let's say an FHA, you can usually go up to around 57%. Well, I've seen VA loans sometimes go up to 67% debt to income ratios. So they're very lenient and a good tool for somebody who has that eligibility.
Very cool. Yeah, well, and it's funny you said, if you want a uniform, because I know there's even a lot of active military that have no idea, um, about being able to get a VA loan at 100% financing, which is, I mean, it's huge, right? I mean, there's this perception that we need all this money to be able to buy a home, and depending on the type of loan, and in this case, it's very minimal. And here also kind of, not new to me because I've seen it over, 20 years in real estate, that very unique that it is common to get the sellers to help with closing cost fees. So if veteran does have some fees there, which there is some fees obviously involved in purchasing a home, but a lot of times we can get those covered, and they can literally get into a new home for practically nothing, which is amazing.
Correct. We just had one close the other day where the borrower was getting $1,000 back at closing because of the way the contracts were written. We also just had someone do a refinance. Yes, they had a 3.25% interest rate, but they also had about $5,000 worth of debt. So by the time we consolidated all of that debt and put it into one low payment, it was, their monthly payment went to, I want to say 16 something a month, as opposed to paying out $5,000. So
very good. And what are a couple other, maybe, if you don't mind sharing specifics, things that maybe we see more with a VA loan that we wouldn't with other types of loans?
So there's some misconceptions about VA loans. So most people think you can only use it one time. So they do all these other programs before they do a VA loan, thinking that they just need to do it for their forever home. That's not true. You can use the VA home loan as many times as you would like. You can also have multiple properties. You can have one home, and then let's say you want to purchase another home. You can use your VA loan for both properties. if you have enough entitlement. Also, let's say you own a VA home and you want to get into renting that home out but buy a new home. You you could you could count that money that you could rent that property out for as income as your departing resident and buy a new home with your VA loan. So there's a lot of perks to it when it comes to VA lending. Let's see, no prepayment penalties. Um, you can go up to county loan limits. Some other programs only, allow for a certain amount of lending. Um, these programs, you can go up to like 800,000. You have dual entitlement. Let's say you're married to a veteran as well. You can double that. And still have 100% financing.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I think that's another
You can
big
also,
misconception of they can only use it once, only have one loan. And obviously, and I know a lot of things have gotten better over the last decade as far as VA loans and limits and excuse me, whatnot. Only when I talk, right? I'm like, there goes that cough. But well, awesome. Well, Brandi, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you directly, versus through a realtor, what is the oh, hold on a second. What is the best way for someone to get a hold of you?
just call my cell phone, 931-980-7571. Call, text, or of course you can email if that's your thing.
Perfect. And I see your cell phone there, the 931-980-7571.
Yes, ma'am, that's it.
Look at you. You look so young right there. You don't look great in oh, with your hair the other way, it looks very, very cute. Very cute. Unlike me today, I'm like,
Definitely
oh,
need to update my picture.
oh my God, you're back here
Definitely need to.
somewhere. These filters don't help. But awesome. Well, thank you for coming on here and educating us on VA loan.
One more thing.
Oh yeah,
One
of
more.
course.
Okay. So one thing I've seen a lot of people complain about in this area is some of the homes that are on the market. Like they'll say, oh, they have brown counters. You don't want brown counters, or you don't want brown cabinets. You don't want certain things. One benefit of this VA loan is you can do a renovation loan. So let's say you want to purchase a property. You can purchase that property and have the renovations included, and it's still 100% financing. So there are a ton of options when it comes to VA, and you definitely have to be creative. But there's ways to do whatever you need to do. You just need to, have all the options available to you.
Very cool.
Now I'm
No, no, by all means, if there's anything else you want to add, please do.
well, I appreciate it. I just wanted to throw that in there. There literally are endless resources when it comes to VA loans, and people just have a misconception because their cousin, their you know friend did this and that wasn't possible. There's not too many things you can't do when it comes to VA loans, and you just have to get creative sometimes.
Yeah, and really even for someone that has some or a substantial down payment, of course you can still put money down. Um, but for those that have that VA entitlement, I mean, typically that's one of your better interest rates, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but as I monitor the interest rates, I'm like, man, they did this and they did this and they did that, which, totally entitled. They served our country, and I think that's amazing. Especially our women veterans. I mean, I can't even get myself to the gym barely, so I think that's amazing. But there's definitely a great program for those entitled to it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you,
Mhm.
Brandi. I look forward to us having you on here again here soon.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
Of course.